Okay, so today I want to cover a few things, kind of talking about where things are currently at with some systems, and just kind of go over what our current progress is. Things are pulling together. I am stretched thin. There's a couple of people working on some stuff in the background that I'll get to, and I still have a big update to pull for the AI, so that won't be very reflective of where that's currently at. Um, but the ability and gear side of things have made a huge shift. I had a crisis last week authoring gear and just started to lose my mind. Um, I think you get to the point to where you start to design things and you look at things on paper and you realize you're absolutely a junior developer. Um, there's no way around it. I looked at it and was like, this is a horrible design. Granted, it was, luckily, it's not too late because there's ways to pivot. Um, but essentially, the version of designing would have required, I don't know, dozens and dozens and dozens of hours of manual data input for gear. I don't want to do that. Um, I still have a lot of input to do, but I did make it a lot easier on myself and then kind of added to the bit of loot grind that we have going here. Um, and so a lot of this comes down to um, how we structure gear. You'll see we have a data asset per rarity. I considered going away from this and letting it pick that rarity, um, but it would have, I kind of would have just driven myself down a deeper hole, um, mostly because I still want the ability to author things. Now, I considered if I open up this gear set piece, I did consider going through and having a modifier here so we can say, well, we want to roll, so let's expand all. We want to roll a certain gear stat, so max armor, and we want to add, this, and it has this weight, so it's higher priority stat. That's great. I considered adding a tag for a rarity tag, and we would have held a pool of rarity tags. That all seems great, but it starts to feel kind of clunky and messy to me versus now I have authored pieces of gear. So my common can have this pool of stats, and then if I go to the highest tier, this mythic piece of gear, and we go to random roll, and we go to our preview pool, we can then just say, well, it has the same pool as the common. However, maybe certain stats have higher weights. Maybe I want to add to this pool and remove some lower end stats, or just increase this pool size and change the weighting. We can also change how many modifiers we can roll on that piece of gear. So Mythic can roll a maximum of 5 modifiers, and it starts at a minimum of 3, versus Common is 0 to 2. Um, so that's kind of where I went with gear. Um, Another specific thing is we have a bulwark, a fixed profile, and what my plans are down the road is these affixed profiles. I will have rarity driven versions. So all my common will roll common affixes, and all of the, rares, epics, uncommons, and mythics, they all have their own affixed profiles per rarity. And so as you're kind of building up your gear, grinding for gear, and increasing your power, these affixes will also be adapting, and you'll see increased gains from those affixes, and you'll really start to see like your characters become um, extremely powerful, and they'll be extremely meaningful. Um, this is quite honestly like something that's super important to me on how gear is authored, and I think it brings a lot of good variation to gear because I love loot grinding. I love that chase. Obviously, drop chances and stuff can kind of piss people off, but um, it's great to see that, I want to find this piece of gear and I'm trying to do this build and I'm really looking for this specific role. That is what really makes the hunt fun as long as it's obtainable and you know how to get it. And so that would be something super important that we do include. Um, and it should be fairly obvious because the way gear changes and the way there's so many different affixes that change per rarity, and there's different pools on different items, and then you have item set pieces. Um, it creates thousands and thousands of variations of gear, and if you're looking for that one role, it can make it quite daunting, or it makes it worth it and that much greater. So this is for me like my ultimate ARPG style inventory and gear system that I'm building. Um, it's something I want to put in like my back pocket and have for outside of this game, maybe something in the future, way down the line, um, when I'm not so junior and I get to learn a lot of things about this. Um, but yeah, so gear is now changed. This is how it works. If you ever end up playing the game, this is now you know. Um, there's no questions about it. Um, you can come back and watch this and be like, yeah, that's how they did that. Okay. Um, so that's kind of where things are at. Currently in the works, I'm doing placeholder icons for our minis and our set icons, so that way when we can roll gear until we can basically afford or have icons made, or I can figure out how to not do shitty programmer art. Yeah, we'll have some placeholder stuff going on as we go into testing. Um, don't need to deal with weapon stuff. Something I just finished adding. If we go into not gear, if we go into weapons, I have 4 weapons that I'm authoring right now for the Bulwark character, and right now they just do basic melee stuff. That's going to change. Each weapon does do melee, but they all have their own special effects. So that will be something that I continue to work on as I am just now getting through a lot of like blocking and finishing stuff. Um, so these are my weapons. I've got 2 more textures to finish up. Dealing with doing like the emissive masks and stuff, that is a nightmare. Um, and then I don't think this name's gonna stick because I think Rampart Edge is something from Destiny. So that's a rip. Probably why it was in my brain. So I need to like unload that and figure out a new name for this weapon. But it's pretty cool, and it's going to do a really cool attack. I can already see I messed up the texture right there. Fantastic, but it's kind of farther away, and I am shit at this. So there's also that. Um, yeah, the character was finished up last week. I used good old Fiverr and found somebody that was able to do character art and was like awesome to work with. He was very quick. It's very affordable for somebody like me. I was getting quotes $500-600 for a single character on a UE4 mannequin skeleton, and I think that's reasonable. However, I can't afford that. I pay for everything out of pocket, so I was able to do this one for about 350, and then our second character in the works, I was able to get done as well. And you're like, oh, $350, $250, like that adds up. 600 bucks for 2 characters. Uh, so yeah, it gets expensive quickly, as anybody know, and that's on the cheap end. Right now, in total, it's about um, for all our enemies throughout the entire game. If I were to pay somebody It's about $21,000 worth of just character art. That doesn't include anything um, about the level. Um, so, and that doesn't include any weapons either if I have to make more weapons. Um, so luckily, I'm able to get weapons made fairly cheap and like package them in, and then I just take their texture uh, and I do my own emissive masking and stuff because it's time consuming and it saves me a bit of money and I can do it. Um, so that's cool. All right. So now that we kind of see the first character that we've got going on, second character hopefully in a couple more weeks. However, that one's not going to get authored into the game until I would venture to guess July. We might start working on the second character. Right now, it's really trying to finish out the first character and the rest of the game mechanics, and finish up our 4 base weapons for that character. The UI is coming in. Um, so we have Mari. She's been killing it. Everybody that's working on this are all, working other jobs as well. So we're getting things done when we can. And she's been working hard on this. We kind of finally settled in. I love this color scheme. Uh, Hopefully everybody else does too. It fits the vibe of the game that as things unfold will kind of make sense. So she's been putting in a lot of work, and we're getting like um, our level menu solid, which this is starting to look really great. We're getting, let's see if I can go to our settings menu and starting to see how the settings menu will be looking. And then this is the inventory menu. And then the ability menu is TBD, but we'll have pretty much all the assets for the modular art pieces that we need to get the ability menu knocked out and doing all of our little glow effects that will happen and stuff like that. So I'm super excited to get to this point. We have a few more things to kind of fix up as far as a lot of the UI elements go, and then we'll start implementing that. And then future videos will all be with that and not the placeholder stuff I can scrounge up. Um, Luckily, like this basic progress bar. And let's choose that, getting this passive menu really solid. Um, so right now all we see is a time for a melee attack. We have progress bars, they're just being blocked. And these effects are actually really, really cool. Um, they just use like 2 textures and they have 2 opposing panners, which is awesome. And these came from, oh man, when the gas course, when I was first learning gas, um, Stephen Ulubari's gas course is where I first picked it up and like was learning and started pushing other smaller projects, personal projects with it. Um, Never really did an inventory system. A lot of the abilities and stuff um, completely different how I handled things. Um, and so yeah, I love those textures in there. So those are placeholders in there. Um, I think they're placeholders. I kind of like them a lot. Um, I think they look good, especially with our border in the background. So yeah, that's kind of the UI side of things, cleaned up and like made the currency section smaller. Been doing a lot of performance testing, and so the abilities, yep, I changed a lot. That's fine. Just removing a lot of stuff, cleaning things out, and we'll do echoing impact. Ensure anchor resolve. Anchor resolves your keystone, so you can see it's charging over there on the right. Got our little double, and then you get your notification via sound that it's ready. You see 5 out of 5, 8 meter impact radius, and boom, it'll execute once you step off. And it tries to charge. I need to fix the tolerance because it will try and charge. Um, I'm working on the shield model right now with somebody, and hopefully I'll have the shield model, but we're using um, animations just from Mixamo. And so if I pause, because the sound is really annoying and we got to clean that up. Um, so just using Sword and Shield animations for Mixamo fits this guy really well. He's kind of slow. Um, I could probably do a little bit better on the blend space. However, I do think it looks pretty good. Um, so today, kind of what happened is we worked through a lot of doing melee, um, doing some blocking tags, and kind of handling like blending our animations, um, dealing with uh, when we jump and your movement ability being that priority. Um, so we'll keep doing echoing impact here. And so a big thing I was running into is basically if I'm attacking, it will basically assume priority over uh, the jump, but your movement ability is your escape, so movement absolutely has to be the priority. If I'm doing something, we will then interrupt whatever we're currently doing, execute movement, and then pick up where we left off from our other attacks. So we can basically jump and then get right back into melee. Which makes it super smooth because we're able to kind of blend out and handle a lot of that. So it does actually look way better than it used to. Another thing was a huge update for the debuff system. So you'll see the little skulls with the progress bars. Those are the progress bars are your um, countdown for how long the debuff will last, so you can track that. And then you have stack size, but generally they kind of tick down or you kill them before you apply multiple stacks right now. Let's clear them out. One thing, I still have a bit more performance optimization to do as far as if I hit F11, as far as it goes for the debuff system, because if I can get, let's see, I honestly don't know where. I think this is the start. Okay. Yeah, so we're using PCG to handle all of our POI stuff, um, and then pathing and stuff uh, is in place, just not in the test map that the AI programmer William built for me to test in for doing ability stuff. So it's fairly simple right now with just POIs, boss gate located at the center. Okay, so if I get these fuckers out of the way, we come down here, we will increase our attack range. And then we're going to basically throw this error because we're executing quite quickly when it goes to update it. So it's another thing. However, go full screen here. We're going to start just decimating things. Our draw times will get kind of high, and same with the frame time when we start ticking a lot of enemies. Let me turn my attack off and cluster them up. Or you can just believe me that there's a contagion system that I loved in PoE. PoE 2, I love playing the Witch, and there's contagion. And so I wanted to build like an aura contagion system for certain status effects. You have a chance to proc it. So if I apply a debuff, oof, wipe them. Um, I killed them way too fast because so they have a chance. It's not a guarantee. I think it's like 15% or something right now, which is pretty good. Um, they have a chance to infect essentially those around them. So we may only apply the debuff to one. However, in a big group, you can start to really see, uh, get away from me, larger groups of enemies then becoming afflicted with that status effect and start to spread. And so I think that's a really cool way to handle um, dealing with large groups of enemies and kind of add some more flavor to certain builds. Somebody may do a very low damaging but high contagion, high status effect build to where we have a system that you can apply um, a status effect. You can increase your application chance, increase your crit chance, which increases application chance, um, to where then you can detonate enemies once they reach max stacks. So if you have enemies reaching, 10 stacks, they will then detonate and do an AoE blast, and then, there's a chance for chaining detonations. So, that's a interesting flavor. I'm, you know, hopefully here in the next couple weeks that will actually be something I can kind of test out. Still working on the detonation side of things, and the blast effect is what's currently in the works for the debuff system and all of that, and tying it into your explosion chance. And then we have a whole separate damage to for exploding, dealing explosive damage on debuffed enemies. Sorry. Whew. Apologies there. So, yeah, those are going to be some really, really, really cool systems to put in place. I'm still trying to figure out what I want to do for particle effect. I tried playing around and making this for the pickup, and I quite honestly hate it. I think it's too generic, and so I'm trying to figure out what the identity will be for the XP pickup. Um, it's honestly probably going to be purple. If I had to guess, purple and blue. Maybe with some pink little like trails coming off, but kind of like bright retro 90s colors. Um, and then yeah, man, I'm kind of wanting to do more of a swirl, almost like an atom. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking, and have a radiating glow a lot like this. I'm just going to try and keep messing around with this with the pulse and changing the outer particles to a different um, shape and velocity, and then mess with some colors. So, but yeah, guys, that's kind of the big update. Um, hopefully over this next week we can finish getting all these UI elements wrapped up, um, at least for what we currently need to implement. And then kind of going through, gear is going to continue getting authored, and I will wrap up the last two enemy models, and then probably in a couple weeks I'll finish out their abilities, and I'll have uh, another like common blade that just does straight melee physical damage, and then we'll have some of the special blades with their particular abilities that they can execute. So look for that in the coming weeks, and we're pushing hard. By June, I want to push the Steam page up and publish a demo, and start doing prototype slash like alpha build testing, and seeing how it performs. But right now I can run it on a laptop with a 2070. It's got like 30 gigs of RAM, so I guess it's kind of overpowered laptop. Um, but yeah, we just kind of want to see and get different systems to run it and see where we end up and get some more feedback. All right, thank you.